this one today. It's a little bit different, something from across the pond, the Atlantic Ocean to be specific. Today we're looking at the Metrix MX24. Today we're looking at the Metrix MX24 multimeter. It's quite a different multimeter. It's a 50,000 count display, liquid crystal, 34 bar analog bar graph, and the display, I think it's about 2.5 times per second is the update refresh rate. Now when they say 50,000 count, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because really it's more like a 5,000 count. And I'll explain that shortly. What do you get in the box? Well, you get your Metrix leads, Cat 4, 1000 volts, and they have the separate connector. So it's basically like a two-part module. You take apart the other and get them in like so, and then you've got a fairly large probe. Probably, I would have to say, it's one of the largest probes I probably have now at this point. My hands aren't huge, but yeah, it's a fairly hefty probe, but I do like it. And you have the shroud here at the tip. Now, unfortunately, this cannot come off. So you are left with that exposed part that you can obviously probe with. I would have preferred if this could actually come off. Okay, you can lose a CAT rating, but still, if you're just doing basic circuit testing, what have you, and you don't need that high CAT rating, it's nice just to be able to lose that and have a little more of a control with your probe. But anyway, that being said, they are very nice probes and very good feel, nice thick silicone, and yeah, I like it. You get the user manual, and it is in quite a few different languages. English is one of them, as well as French, and I believe German as well. Now this is a French multimeter, and it comes from Saint-Eugène in Rue France. I will just try and show that to you if it would come into focus. But it's not every day that you see a French multimeter, so I thought this would be something neat to explore and a little different. Multimeter itself has a very unusual holster mechanism to it. You can see here so instead of having your typical standing bail attached to the meter housing, you've got the holster, which has a silicone or PVC style tilt stand. Now the problem with that is it's not at a 90-degree angle. So if you prefer, like I do, to either have your meter at a 90-degree angle or flat, then so be it. But otherwise, you're gonna have to prop this up on something. It's too bad. You know, I have no problem with, you know, this per se, but yeah, the angle for me just doesn't quite work. That being said, the holster does come off quite easily. Holster itself, high quality grade PVC, no smell whatsoever. Very nice fabrication, good implementation going on there. Meter itself, quite a small meter. Surprisingly, I thought this would be a little bit bigger, but it is fairly small, compact, and like I said, there is no standing bail. Here on the back of the meter, as you can see, it says made in France. How's the power on options on the back of the meter, so you can disable the auto power off if you prefer. And you can change from manual to auto ranging mode as well. Now, the neat thing about this meter is the fuse access, which I will point out shortly. So you don't have to disable the entire meter to gain access to your fuses if they need changing. You simply take off the back panel here with a coin or a tip of a screwdriver, and this part slides out. And I'll show you that in a little bit. Now, one thing you'll notice right away when you turn on the meter is that the actual font is quite small. So if you have, I wouldn't say poor vision, but if you have older eyes, you might find it a little bit difficult to look at, because it is not only small, but it's also quite thin. So the LCD is a little hard. Actually, I'm going to take off this plastic. I forgot to do that earlier. But yeah, so, and as you can see, there's quite a bit of glare on that LCD display as well. So you kind of want it in just the right position. And it does have a backlight. And I don't know, not the greatest backlight I've seen. This is kind of reminiscent for me of the Japanese meters, where you have your separate LEDs on each side. Now, it does not turn off. So you turn the backlight on, it stays on, and that's a good thing. I don't like it when the meter automatically switches off the backlight. I prefer to be in control of that. But yeah, so that's the way it illuminates with backlight. The range switch, you know, I'm still making up my mind on this one. It's okay. Am I crazy about it? Probably not. It's a little bit spongy feeling for me, but it does feel good quality if you can figure that out. Now we'll take this apart later on in the review and we'll take a look at exactly how good or bad the quality is on that selector switch. But in terms of the actual mechanics of it, as you can hear, you don't have that nice tight clicking. It's more of a soft. But it does hit the ranges quite well, and there's no worry about going off range. This also does have, as I mentioned, a bar graph, which is located at the top. Some of you might prefer on the bottom. It's normally seen on the bottom, but in this case, the bar graph scale is on the top of the multimeter. Right now we have the dial selector set to frequency, and we're showing us 60 Hertz. And we were talking before about the 50,000 count, and that 50,000 count unfortunately only applies to the frequency measurement. Otherwise, it's a 5,000 count display, so it's a bit misleading at first. If you do see the MX24 advertising as 50,000 counts, remember that is only for frequency. Otherwise, it's a standard 5,000 count display multimeter. Now, one thing I noticed with this multimeter, it's interesting, is when you're hitting the ranges, for instance, right now, I've got it into the frequency range, and it's in auto mode, and now we are in continuity. The resistance or ohms, still in auto, capacitance, and if for whatever reason when you hit diode mode, the auto shutoff disables. So, go figure. It is a true RMS multimeter. I believe the TRMS technology is on chip. I do not believe there's a separate IC for this. I have emailed the Chauvin Arnaud, which is the subsidiary group of Metrix, sister company. It's all one and the same. And I have asked them some questions about the IC itself on this meter and a couple of questions regarding the functionality. I've yet to receive any feedback, but when I do, I will put it at the bottom below. Okay, so starting with the voltage 2.8 volts, we're taking it up all the way to 8.9 volts. Showing us 9.00. Oh, now came back down to 8.98 for the MX24. 8.97 for the Sanwa. Okay, up to volts for the power supply, and neck and neck 10.26 showing for both Sanois and the Metrix. Going up again, 15, 16, let's try 20 volts. 20.1 volts the power supply, 20.2 on the Metrix, and 20.2 on the Sanois. Okay, going all the way up to 26. We're going to take it as high as it goes, just under 32 volts. 31.85 and 31.88 for the Sanois. So yeah, in terms of accuracy and reliability, spot on. They are pretty well neck in neck, and obviously no discernible difference. Now you'll see the bar graph on the Sanois is located at the bottom of the display, whereas on the Metrix it's at the top. Now you be the judge. I prefer the bottom myself. It just seems from a natural perspective just easier on the eye. But let's just compare the bar graphs themselves. So I will take the voltage up and down, and we'll just see if there's a difference in terms of speed. So it's hard to say, but I don't know, perhaps the Metrix is has a slight edge in terms of the speed with which it is displaying that bar graph. It's pretty close though. Now the bar graphs as well are different. The Metrix, it's saying 0 to 25, whereas on the Sanois it's going by the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 volt. Okay, so now we're at 32. So when you increase the voltage, the graph display changes from 25 to 50 on the Metrix, and it's still showing as 0 to 6 on the Sanois. So I do prefer the logistics of the bar graph on the Metrix. Gives you a better indication of where you are scale-wise on the voltage level. But that being said, they're both pretty well fast, neck and neck. Not a big difference. Probably an edge goes to the French Metrix. Okay, we are now on the resistance scale, and I have a 7-decade resistance box in front of me, and we'll go through a quick and dirty check on the resistance with the Metrix. Starting off with 1 mega ohm, and there we go, 1 mega ohm exactly, spot on. 2 mega ohm, right on the money. 3 mega ohm, pretty close. Let's go to 5 mega ohms. Pretty close. Let's go all the way to 9 mega ohm. There we go. So yeah, pretty spot on. 9.1 mega ohm. 9.11. 9.24 showing on the decade box, and we're showing 9.29, 9.3 on the Metrix. Alrighty, so in terms of the resistance, spot on. Excellent. Now we're in the continuity mode, and here I'll be demonstrating the continuity with the standard Metrix test probes. By the way, these are rated, I did mention Cat 4 1000 volts, but they're also rated at 15 amps. Okay, continuity, here we go. Wow, that is just utter crap. I mean, it's really hard to do continuity in the first place with probes like this, but horrible. I mean, that is just like, Jesus, Lord, crap. Okay, could not use those probes for continuity. But we will remove those probes. And just because I like to stir up shite, I'm going to take a pair of these not old, but cheap Chinese $2 eBay probes, and we're going to try the same continuity test. Are you ready? Here we go. So there you go, cheap Chinese probes, miles and miles of difference. So it's not always how much you pay, it's what you get. Excellent continuity, latched, fairly loud, could probably be a little bit louder. I wish there was a visual indicator as well as audible, but definitely much better. Next up, capacitance. And for this, I'm just going to test two capacitors. This is rated at 50,000 microfarad. So I have here unfortunately not a 50,000, but it's a 10,000 microfarad capacitor, or 10 millifarad. And we will try this one first. So we're showing is 1 millifarad. And you know what, folks? Wow. Thanks to live TV. Yeah, I'm not in capacitance. Oh, okay. Try this again, now that we're in capacitance mode. It's 10,000 microfarad capacitor. It says run, as you can see. So it is discharging and charging the capacitor as we speak. Now this should be able to read it. It is stated for 50 millifarad, 50,000 microfarad. Grandma was slow, but she was 99. Come on, Metrix. Really, I'm not that good of a whistler. Oh my God, this is taking a long time. Wow. Okay. I'm not time-lapsing this or anything. I just wanted to see if we could have a good, clear cut. But, you know, obviously I could not test any large capacitor with this meter because this is unacceptably way too long. And still nothing. Interesting. Okay, I'm taking it off for now. I have another capacitor. This is an older cap, tiny value. Let's see if it fares any better here. And there we go. 166 nanofarad. Yep. 170. And it is, yeah, pretty well in spec. So no trouble with the small one, but with that large capacitor, it was a no-go. A little bit disconcerting, especially where in the manual itself they do quite clearly state that it is capable of 50 millifarad. So, alrighty. Something unique with this multimeter is the fact that it does come with its own Metrix test report. And it tells you the temperature was tested at, in this case, 23 degrees. Plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius. It has the instrument number or the serial number of your Metrix meter. And as well, it has the firmware number that it was calibrated at. It tells you what the calibration mechanism was. In this case, it was a WaveTech 9000. And as they say, every tester measuring equipment used to verify this instrument is related to national and international standards through laboratories of meteorology certified by French COFRAC, equivalent to the UKAS in the UK, or through another certified laboratory. The instrument complies with acceptance conditions and the procedure tested by, and we have the initials of MG. And the signature looks like Germain. Now, what's even cooler is if you go down here, I know it's a little hard font-wise, but it will tell you the ranges that was actually tested on and what the nominal values were. Now, is this calibration certificate, recognized? I honestly don't know if it would be recognized here in North America. But, there's a warm, fuzzy feeling to know at least you are getting a calibration. CalSat certificate with this meter, and you know that alone is some peace of mind. So whether or not you have to take it to a third party here in North America, get it calibrated by a recognized standard or not, the fact that you at least have an instrument that was calibrated before it left the factory is really good to know. Alrighty then, so we've got the insides exposed. Wow. This is a true French masterpiece. Okay, I'm getting carried away, but what can I say? First thing you'll notice, and look at this, guys and girls, woohoo! Shielding! Way to go, magnifique, and really nice to see. Great job, and I love it. You know? I love shielding. And carrying that shielding just a little bit further, we notice here, this is the selector switch, and wow, is that a gorgeous looking brass knob on the selector switch. And look at this, something you don't see too often in multimeters these days. That's right, more shielding, and it goes all the way down. Look at that. Now that's the daughter board. This is actually a connector, a 4-pin connector that connects to this PCB, and this is for the, just make sure I don't lose everything here. So you got the min-max, the mem, and the backlight. So for whatever reason, Metrix decided not to put this all on one PCB, and that's what this is for, that separate daughter board. But more shielding here, and you know what? ESD, you know, electrostatic discharge, magnetic interference, whatever you want to call it, it's a real PIA, and it happens a lot. And when you're dealing with instruments, you know, you want to try and negate as much of the offset as possible. And by doing the little things like Metrix did, just by adding the shielding, not only in the back of the chassis, but here on the selector knob and further down, you are greatly reducing false readings. So this is kudos to Metrix for taking the time to do the little things right. Oh yeah, love it. Okay, now, here we have the little sliding fuse box. And let me just turn it around. What do we see? Oh, made in France. Okay, cool. Put that aside for now. Let's look at the main PCB. Oh yeah, gotta love it. Gotta love it, boys and girls. Yes. Okay, so starting way over here, these are the fuse holders, and the fuse holders are like gorgeous. I mean, gorgeous. Look at that. Looks like a tuning fork. So your fuses are going to be resting and being held really, really, really well. And another secondary actual function of these fuse holders actually helps hold the chassis. When you're removing this meter, the fuses themselves are also part of the retention mechanism. It's kind of hard to describe, but it works. And yeah, just very nice. I mean, look at the way that soldering job is. Like, wow, look at that soldering job. It's gorgeous. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. You know, I mean, like, really? You know, really? I mean, that is top-notch. Top-notch soldering there. Good stuff. Oh, look at what we got here. This is I believe, a 10-watt power resistor. So, yeah, it just keeps getting better and better, folks. Gotta love it. Bring this guy back around. Here's the input jacks themselves. Once again, extremely, extremely well implemented here. I mean, just gorgeous. Flipping it around, and what do you get? Yep, just more goodness. Those jacks are not going anywhere. And speaking of the jacks, if you just want to bring the other assembly back into the picture for a second, you look at those jacks, right? They're not going anywhere. You know, between the soldering on these guys here and the way these are being retained here, I mean, this is going nowhere. So excellent, excellent, excellent. I like it. Okay, moving down, here is the current 10 amp current jack, and we can see we're hitting a nice little, see that coming along? So we hitting a PTC, ceramic PTC. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. As they say in France, 1, 2, 3, 4 MOVs. Yep, and those are high quality ones too. We have a nice little diode clamp going on. And speaking of diodes, no shortage of diodes on this baby. More clamping going on. Really, 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 really good stuff. Selector knob itself, high quality, being retained by 1, 2, 3, 4 Phillips screws. It's not going anywhere. Very nicely made. Here's our speaker, which sounds really great, by the way. And as well, we have the main IC here. Now, I am still trying to gather information on this IC. I have looked high and low, and I can't find anything yet. But when I get something back from the manufacturer, I will post it below, and I'll let you know. XL3488C00. So far, it's a work in progress. This is a Schmidt trigger right over here. Here is the LCD. I just love it when you're lost for words. This is what the zebra stripe sits on. So you want to make sure you're not touching this when you're touching the PCB, because that can easily leave your natural human body fluids, and you can mess up your gorgeous display. So try not to handle that if you don't have to. This is obviously a factory calibration right over here. So when they're the factory and they're calibrating these things for the first time, I believe this is what they're connecting into. And speaking of display, very unusual, but here are the LEDs, one on each side, and that is what is giving the illumination. So interesting implementation of the LED ritual, but it works nonetheless. And what else do we have? I failed to mention down over here, we have a couple of diode rectifiers over here. Just generally well thought out. And it's really hard to see. I think this is an analog multiplexer over here. Anyway, in a nutshell, yeah, very nice, very high quality. I'm impressed. You know, you're definitely getting some bang for your buck here. If I have a pet peeve, probably, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but I mean, we got some writing going on here, and we have some more writing going on here. Damn it, don't write on my meters. Okay? If anybody's going to write on them, let it be me. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but that's just a little pet peeve of the day. Okay? Generally speaking, super clean, super well laid out, very, very nice. Obviously, this is for the 9-volt battery, and once again, you can see soldering job, top notch, impressive, high quality, good job, Metrix. Another nice feature with this MX24 Metrix multimeter is when you need to change the fuses, and you know it's going to happen sooner or later, it's actually quite simple. Instead of removing the whole chassis, you simply take your screwdriver or a coin, what have you, and in this case I would probably put it within a soft cloth or something, the screwdriver head, just give it a little twist so you don't mess up the meter. And it opens up just like that. And inside there you have access to both of your fuses, and that way you don't have to take off the entire chassis. So no screwdriver required, just a coin would work, and instant access, which means instant gratification. Excellent, I like that. Good implementation. Speaking of fuses, in the fuse compartment itself, they're both high rupture capacity SIBA fuses, and they're rated at 10 amps and 630 milliamps respectively. So we've got it hooked up now to a 4700 microfarad capacitor, electrolytic, and no problem in this case. We're showing just under 4600 microfarad. So not sure why it's unable to measure that 10,000. Okay, so I have put it back. I used a different set of test leads, and this time we are a go 9.92 millifarad. It took about 60 seconds or so, but it does work. So for whatever reason it didn't work the first time, perhaps it didn't like the test leads, but just so you know, this is rated at 50 millifarad, and it was successful at measuring a 10 millifarad electrolytic cap. So that's good news. So, closing thoughts on the MX24 by Metrix, a subsidiary of Chauvin Arnaud. I really wanted to like this meter, and I wanted to like it a lot. You know, the fact that it's a meter that's not made in Asia, it's actually made in Europe, in Roux, France. They actually fabricate it from the plant in Roux, France. That's great to see. I'm based in Canada, and there was a time when whatever you bought, whether it was textiles or electronics, you name it, at least 50% of the time it was made in Canada. You know, times have changed, and unfortunately, not always in a good way. And when you see something that's actually still made in Europe, it's great. So, hats off to Metrix and Chauvin Arnaud. I know it can't be easy competing with the overseas, especially when it comes to price point ratios. But however, they're managing to do it somehow, and I think it's great. So it's really nice to see a European made multimeter. The display itself is a big letdown. I just don't like it on this particular Metrix. It's very small. The contrast isn't good. There's a lot of glare that gets through, and even with the aided backlight, you know, it just doesn't make a big difference. If I had to use this meter for 8 hours per day, I'd probably be a little bit bug-eyed at the end of the day. It shouldn't be that way. So I wish they would have done a little bit better with the LCD display technology, and perhaps just implemented a nicer overall, more contrasty, slightly bigger digits for this meter. I know not all of the Metrix meters have displays like this, but in this case, it's definitely a letdown. It's good to see that we resolved the capacitance issue. That was sort of a bother, but it was a good chance for me to utilize the Metrix / Chauvin Arnaud tech support. And unfortunately, I don't have anything positive to say about that, because it's been almost a week and I've yet to get any responses from Chauvin Arnaud in regards to any of the questions that I have submitted to them. I had registered this meter online through their portal, but so far dead air. So when you're buying a meter, and this is not a cheap meter, it's around $250, you know, you do expect a little bit of you know, better response time in terms of tech support. So that's a big letdown, and frankly I'm a little surprised. But anyway, if I do hear something in the not too distant future, I will definitely post it below. Yeah. Now, another big plus with this meter, though, is the input protection. Excellent. Some really, really gorgeous looking mauves in there, some nice PTCs. You've got all sorts of diode clamping going on. And one thing that I really failed to point out, if you notice on the screen, that is actually the current shunt. And it's not your typical looking current shunt. So it's not your typical looking shunt by any means. This is base mounted. It's made up of resistive elements that are precision etched. And this is one of the questions I had forwarded to Chauvin Arnaud. I wanted a little more detail, technical specifics on the shunt technology. So, you know, I obviously haven't heard back, but hopefully, once again, I will post more details below if I do get a response. Overall, the input protection, very nice, very clean. I mean, you saw the insides, beautiful soldering jobs, very, very nicely made. The fact that you have simple access to the fuses is a big plus as well in my mind. It's nice not having to open the meter from scratch just to change a fuse. That being said, if for whatever reason you do have to actually get into the chassis of this meter, it is a little bit awkward. It's not your typical meter to just delve into. It's a bit of a chore to get into, but that being said, once you're inside, things are very well laid out, and I was quite impressed with the overall look of the PCB. Finally, the cost and availability, well, it's not cheap, over $250 Canadian at the time when I purchased this meter. Availability-wise, you are ordering overseas, and if you're based in North America, that's always a bit on the cumbersome side. However, it is available, and shipping was relatively fast. Probably took only about a week to get here from France. All in all, quite a pleasant experience. I'm quite happy with my first French multimeter, and I'll definitely be on the lookout for more. I'm going to give the Metrix MX24 a solid 3 out of 5 stars. Hope you enjoyed this review, and till the next time, keep on testing.